Hey all, and welcome to Shadow of Space. And we are commenting on another PCP video that is called Black Liberals Triggered After Black Republican Declares Slavery is Over on the Congressional Floor. This was uploaded May 16th. This is being recorded May 17th, and link is in the description.
Said, I'm a proud husband, father of three, combat veteran, West Point graduate, Ivy League triple degree holder, and a U.S. congressman. You know how I achieved that, Don? By being a serious, rational person.
Let's be real. How many people with those same qualifications have been fired and called DEI? Kamala Harris was called DEI for having those exact same qualifications.
Quite frankly,
No, Kamala Harris is irrational and insane.
no, actually, Kamala Harris does not have my qualifications. I'm a West Point graduate. I served my country in combat as an Apache pilot. I have 3 master's degrees from Cornell University. And I'm the congressman for a white majority district that President Trump would have won by almost 20 points. And I won by 26 points because literally people are not looking at the color of my skin. They're looking at my qualifications. And our party doesn't play that game. I'm seeing a lot of talk from my colleagues on the left, too, as we shift toward this reinvigorated talk about Jim Crow and the past of this country. And as someone who is a direct descendant of a slave, as someone whose great-great-grandfather was born on a plantation, I can assure you slavery is over. Jim Crow is dead. When I go anywhere, I don't see any white-only signs.
But so... I have to disagree. Slavery is not dead. That's a little silly. I don't even believe in this country that slavery is dead.
I don't. I promise you. I am a black man that represents a white majority district in Texas.
I don't think human trafficking has stopped. So like sex slaves are still a thing? I don't think those have gone away. Maybe they have. I don't know.
Of a man
I don't think so.
Stands before you today as a proud conservative Republican from Texas.
This is like declaring that the country is no longer racist. Like, I don't know if I agree with that either.
And follower in Christ, and as a believer in what this country can be if we allow equality for not just Muslim Americans, not just Buddhist Americans, but also Christian Americans like yourself. God bless you, young man. You give me.
What kind of self-hating you-know-whatery is going on? There's so much to...
What?
I'll let it stand for itself. Wow. Wow.
Boy. So we got to talk about this amazing message during a congressional hearing, courtesy of Texas Congressman Wesley Hunt, who declared that slavery is dead, okay, that Jim Crow is over in response to Democrats boo-hoo, whining, crying about Jim Crow, racism, hate, bigotry, because they can't draw black districts, because they can't have segregated congressional districts. And this triggered a whole lot of black liberals, okay? The usual suspects are very upset that Wesley Hunt told the truth during this congressional hearing.
What's up, family? Slavery is over and Jim Crow is dead. Furthermore, America has moved past its history of systemic racism, and that progress should be recognized. This, according to Texas Republican Wesley Hunt. Yeah, fam, he's at it again. Boy, can you say coconut, boys and girls? Check this dude out.
A lot of talk from my colleagues on the left, too, as we shift toward this reinvigorated talk about Jim Crow and the past of this country. And as someone who is a direct descendant of a slave, as someone whose great-great-grandfather was born on a plantation, I can assure you slavery is over.
Let me just say, as someone whose great-grandfather great-great-grandfather was
Are you in
born
the
on
image?
a plantation who was a slave, I can assure you that slavery is not over. You see how that works? They think just because they put a black face to it that it makes it true.
Okay, well, you can say the same thing about you. Well, just because you're putting a black face to this doesn't make it true.
Appearing to have no historic or current knowledge of the state of America and race relations. But he actually thinks he's not like them. You know what I'm saying? The N-words.
This reinvigorated talk about Jim Crow and the past of this country. And as someone who is a direct descendant of a slave, as someone whose great-great-grandfather was born on a plantation, I can assure you, slavery is over.
Are you going to use the fact that your ancestors were on a plantation too now, Don Lemon?
Jim Crow is dead.
What kind of self-hatred, self-hating person could even think that? What kind of self-hatred and delusion must you have in order to even think something like that? How do you even look in the mirror? How do you sleep at night? What do you tell your kids? What do you tell your kids? What do you tell your black kids? Because I don't know. I think maybe he's, in an interracial marriage. I have nothing against that, but your kids are still black, right? Because you're in an interracial marriage. So what do you tell your kids? How do you...
Aren't you in an interracial marriage? And a gay interracial marriage? You can't even have kids.
How do you deal with your constituents? He says, well, I'm in I'm in a majority white district, but maybe that's why he feels that he is not like them, that he's one of them.
Yeah, so you say that you heard.
Like black people in their districts, they're one of them.
Slavery apparently is still alive, according to...
Well, I mean, I don't know. He says Jim Crow is dead. That means segregation is right? I don't know. I literally listened to Don Lemon. That was kind of segregationist.
Black liberals, right? They're still living in slavery, but yet they won't leave, right? They won't.
Then slavery is not dead. Slavery is very much alive, and people choose to put themselves there.
Won't leave the slavery that they claim they're living in. They're still here in the United States of America. They don't want to go to Africa, a place where there are less white people, right? Less white oppression. They want to stay here in slavery. Somebody make it make sense, but I mean, in reference to Don Lemon, I want to ask him, well, what do you tell your white husband when you go on national television and you talk about how the white man is so evil, right? What do you tell him after he finished giving you the great white pipe? What do you roll over and tell your husband? How do you explain going on national television, talking trash about how the white man is so bad?
Well, that's probably the pillow talk afterwards, is how awful of a person he is for being a white person or something.
But yet you allow
it's probably a
white
part of it.
supremacy in your bed, right? You get pounded by white supremacy every night, Don. I don't get it. I really don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense to me. Without further ado, let's listen to what Congressman Wesley Hunt actually said, because his speech deserves to be heard basically everywhere. So without further ado, let's get into it.
To some people in this room, what I'm about to say may sound a bit controversial, but it's not controversial because it's true. America is a Christian nation. We're founded upon Christian values. Our founders believed that our rights did not come from government, but they came from God. Those ideals shaped our institutions, our culture, our laws, and the very moral foundation and fabric of what I know is the greatest country in the world. Now, America is also a country that welcomes people from all backgrounds of every culture and faith. That's actually what is a part of our greatness. And as somebody like me that fought in combat to ensure that anyone could come to this nation and believe what they want to believe and believe in the First and Second Amendment rights, I welcome that more than you could ever believe, because I laid my life down on the line to ensure that that would happen. But let's be clear about something. Assimilation to American values and ideas matter. When we begin importing belief systems and cultural values...
If they don't, then they can't be chasing the American dream, because the American dream is the American ideal. If you have no American ideal, then you have no American dream. Or if your American ideal looks like something else, then it's no longer an American ideal, it's their ideal.
That are fundamentally incompatible with the principles that build this nation, we should not be surprised when the social fabric begins to fray. Let me be clear. This is not hateful. This is not racist. This is not xenophobic. And I can show I'm not racist.
Please don't say let me be clear. That's as obnoxious as listening to people on the left.
I've been black for like my whole life, for like 44 years.
If you were clear the first time, you wouldn't have to say that you were clear. Don't be clear, just say what you mean.
I say the Sharia law has no place to usurp our Constitution in these United States of America, and especially in our schools, and especially in our public institutions.
Yeah, I think that assimilation certainly matters, right? And that's the part about the immigration conversation that we don't talk about enough, which is that the main problem with mass migration is the fact that a lot of these individuals who come over here are not assimilating. And that is a problem because fundamentally, America is a Christian country, more specifically, an Anglo-Protestant country, okay?
So he's talking about Sharia-free America and threat of Islam hearing. But then he starts talking about slavery. I'm confused where this actually comes in the speech.
Of who we are, okay, as Americans, and mass migration has been a threat to that, right? But that is a part of the Marxist agenda. The Marxist agenda is to take down what they see as the white power structure. Again,
because they have to. Because the only way that they can put their power structure in, because what he says is true, it isn't compatible. You can try to make it work, but
Protestant cultural foundation of this country, right? They want to undermine that explicitly because, again, to the cultural Marxists, the white man is a part of the oppressor class, okay? It's important to understand exactly what the agenda is, right? And that's why messages like this are so important.
America's legal system is rooted in the Constitution and equal justice under the law, not religious extremism or parallel legal systems. We have learned from many of our colleagues on the left that this tends to be how they tack in this general direction. 10 Commandments, not allowed. Bad. Islamic pamphlets, good. 10 Commandments, bad. Free Qurans in schools, good. 10 Commandments, bad. Understanding Sharia law, brochures, good. This is the hypocrisy that we Christian Americans are quite sick of.
Yeah, facts, right? Facts. This man hasn't said one thing wrong. The agenda from the left, again, to undermine the foundations of this country.
Because I've said this before too, that they all know about Christian nationalism, and they're all very vehemently against Christian nationalism. They don't even believe that something like Muslim nationalism is a thing that exists outside of the Middle East. They don't think that it's happening. How do you fight something? How do you plan for something that you don't know is happening?
Part of it is the hypocrisy when it comes to this conversation about freedom
How do you
of
solve
religion,
a problem that you
the
don't
left
know
only
is
believes
happening?
in freedom of religion for everybody else that's not Christian, right? They think that Christians, that we must not be allowed to freely express our faith because we are oppressors, right? and that's why they, again, are okay with the hypocrisy of allowing special rights and privileges for non-Christians, okay? But when it comes to Christians, again, they want us to shut up, right? It's the same type of hypocrisy when it comes to race. You're openly allowed to be racist towards whites. Whites can be put at a disadvantage. Whites can be demonized. Whites can't say the N-word, right? Yada, yada, yada. All of these restrictions for whites, right? Social restrictions that don't apply to anybody else, right? And this is how you have Democrats out here arguing for black districts, right? But you can't have white districts. You can have
No,
black
arguably you can have white districts. Those are the Republican districts.
caucuses, but you can't have white caucuses, right? It's that type of hypocrisy, okay? Because it's about undermining what they see as the power structure, the white Christian power structure.
Well, because they shouldn't have to do it based on racial lines. I don't know why you can't just do it based on political lines. I don't know why you can't just do it based off of these people are Democrats and they need Democrat representation. These people need a seat. There's enough people here. I don't.
Right, we can't leave that out. White Christian male power structure, to be more specific.
People who mock or marginalize America's founding values suddenly become deeply tolerant when the ideology in question is directed against Western traditions and institutions. Meanwhile,
because those fundamental institutions are white. So, in order to be race conscious, you have to take the opposite stance of those white institutions.
Sharia law is normalized and distributed to children in school while expressions of traditional faith are treated like a threat. Here's how things should work. Math, yeah. Free Qurans? No. History? Yeah. Sharia brochures? No. Science? Yeah. Shahada cards? No. This is a very simple idea that should be understood by all Americans.
We'll see, and then you look at the education rates, and it's like, why aren't the kids learning anything? Because they're not teaching them anything. They're teaching them culture, which is made up. Wow.
One of my best friends is a Muslim American.
No wonder they're all fantasy delusional thinkers who cannot solve any of their problems except by yelling and whining and violence. Because they don't know anything. Because they are adults with the mind of 5-year-olds.
As an American first and has fully embraced our culture and what it means to be an American. That's good. That's what we want. That's why we call this place a melting pot. I'm seeing a lot of talk from my colleagues on the left, too, as we shift toward this reinvigorated talk about Jim Crow and the path to this country. And as someone who is a direct descendant of a slave, as someone whose great-great-grandfather was born on a plantation, I can assure you slavery is over. Jim Crow is dead. When I go anywhere, I don't see any white-only signs. I don't, I promise you. I am a black man that represents a white majority district in Texas. The great-great-grandson of a man born on a plantation stands before you today as a proud conservative Republican from Texas, as a believer and follower in Christ, and as a believer in what this country can be if we allow equality for not just Muslim Americans, not just Buddhist Americans, but also Christian Americans like yourself. God bless you, young man. You give me a lot of hope for the future of this country. Thank you for having the courage to yield back the remainder of my time.
Wow, that was powerful.
That was a lot.
That was one of the most powerful speeches that I've heard in a long, long, long time. Shout out to Wesley Hunt. Shout out to Wesley Hunt. Seriously. Shout out to this man. Right? He always says this, but he's proof that what Democrats claim about so-called black representation is just about Democrats, right? That's it. It's about Democrat power. Because black people have a chance to vote for somebody like a Wesley Hunt. Okay? However, they choose not to. They actively choose not to vote for black Republicans. But you do know who votes for black Republicans? Well, white conservatives will vote for black Republicans. And black Republicans don't need...
And it's the idea is that because you are aligning yourself with whiteness, you are denying your blackness. It's why they say it's self-hatred, because the only reason that you would want to assimilate to white culture is because you have been taught to hate your black culture so thoroughly that you would rather align yourself with white culture.
To have black people voting for them, right? Black Republicans can appeal
It's
to
like
people
a
besides
crisis
black
of
folks,
identity.
because it just so happens that conservatives don't vote based off skin color, race.
It's what I say, is that they cannot envision a black person that doesn't vote Democrat. To them, that is the dividing line between Democrat and Republican. Democrat is the black party, and Republicans are the white party. If you are a Republican, you are white. Not necessarily in terms of skin color, but in terms of ideology, in terms of culture, in terms of how you view society and how it should be run.
We vote based off values, right? And if our values align, then hey, you can represent us in Congress, right? If we have the same values. Wesley Hunt is black. He represents a white district, or majority white district. White people had no issues voting for him. Why? Because they share the same values, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is why you don't hear Republicans boo-hoo whine and cry about, the black district. How are black people going to get elected in Congress? Well, I don't know. Maybe appeal to people based off values and not skin color.
I mean, you have to run. You have to campaign, and you have to win those campaigns. Believe it or not, nothing changes. This is what you need to stop yelling about how this is such a big problem. It's not. The exact same thing that you do every day to campaign, you just do in a different block of space, in a different area. That doesn't stop. How you play the game doesn't change. Where you play the game does. No one's vote is being suppressed. No one's rights are being taken away. No one is losing their ability to vote. This is so ridiculous. This is such overblown nonsense. Absolute nonsense.
Right? Who would have thought that you could actually become a member of Congress, that white people can vote for you if you appeal to people based off values, okay? Not skin color, not race, not identity, just values, right? Do we believe the same things? Do we want the same world for our kids, for the future, for our friends, whatever, right? For our family. And we align on these things, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But Democrats, on the other hand, they believe that black people have to align with the Democrat Party, and that's it, right? And anything other than that, complete alignment with the Democrat Party is Jim Crow, is slavery, is hate, is racism.
There are people in this hostile anti-black administration that would rather black Americans pick cotton.
This is literally just that woman in the pink with the bullhorn. This is useless. It doesn't do anything.
Then pick the president. Then pick their congressperson. Then pick a senator.
Then where do you get these clothes? Who picks your cotton?
They want the representatives to decide who their voters are, instead of the voters determining who their representatives are. This is all happening because they recognize
That's not what's happening.
The power of the super majority, and that is the black voter and every marginalized voter. So I agree.
Yeah, the supermajority? You mean stupid nonsense Democrat rules so that minorities can have more power than everyone else? Like, specifically so that they can have more power, not just the same amount of power, but more power than everyone else.
We should appeal to better angels. We should do our work to maintain our commitment to the promise of this country. But we have work to do. And that is why we are here, to agitate, to organize, to mobilize, to litigate, to legislate, to demand that the...
No, you're just here to be violent, and to yell, and to scream, and to hold up signs.
House called to the floor the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. And then, one day, we need to expand the court. This extremist court that have been enlisted as co-conspirators in this extremist, anti-freedom, anti-democratic agenda.
And it's nonsensical at this point, right? I think most people realize that
Well,
Democrats.
no, again, I said this in one of the other videos. All I hear are the buzzwords. All I hear are the talking points. They're like, we need to raise our voices. No, I've already heard your voices. Everyone has already heard your voices 20 trillion times. Saying the same thing over and over again is not going to make me listen to you any harder.
Make absolutely no sense when it comes to these arguments that
They're useless. They are actually useless.
But hey, I see it as a sign of desperation. The American people are not falling for this anymore.
The only way that they know how to solve their problems is with a gun. The people who sit here and say, we need to stop gun crime, are the people who they only know how to solve their problems with guns, with violence. Pathetic.
We are not living in Jim Crow.
Sorry.
Slavery is over. And I just wish all these people who claim otherwise to leave, right? Just go ahead and leave so that, hey, you ain't got to boo, whine, and cry about not being happy here. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and
We're at war. I don't know.